So hi everyone, welcome to today's Latino Talks United Us Cultural Similarities event, which is hosted by the HACEMOS Employee Resource Group in collaboration with Global Expatriate Services. My name's Zoe Wild and I'm an expat counsellor from the Global Expatriate Services team. Our team partnered with HACEMOS ERG to put together this event where our 4 panelists will be sharing their cultural experiences of living and working in another country. The idea behind the collaboration came from our experiences of open and honest conversations we had with our expats over the years regarding their culture and experience. Moving to a new country can be challenging, but overall their experience is enriching and one that's never forgotten. Please allow me to introduce our 4 panelists who will be sharing their cultural stories from their time living and working in a different culture. Carrie Rondon, now a Chief of Staff in Florida, United States, but during her time in Manila, Philippines, Carrie's role was a vendor manager. Carrie has a Cuban heritage. Carrie will be sharing her stories from her time in the Philippines. Whilst Carrie was there, she also experienced the Philippines' reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic, which was very different than in other countries. But Carrie is no stranger to the Philippines, as prior to her assignment, she visited the Philippines no less than 50 times in total. Next up, we have Ana Concepcion, who's a VP General Manager for Business Sales and Solution. Ana has been in Mexico City since March 2018. Ana is from Puerto Rico and will be sharing her experiences from living and working in Mexico. Viviana Belthort is a multicultural digital transformation leader based in Texas, USA, originally from Venezuela. Viviana is passionate about how people and business and things connect with each other, making communities stronger and enabling energy efficiency. She has lived in Ecuador for 3 years, Italy for 6 months, Mexico for 5 years, Spain for 1 year, USA for 6 years, which is where she currently lives and works today. I will now hand over and introduce the moderator for today's session. Maria Leisting is a Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of Infrastructure, Engineering and Operations for Vomic Essen Corporation. Prior to this, Maria served as Vice President of Healthcare Solutions at AT&T Business for 11 years. Maria is a Director of Hispanic IT Executive Council. Maria is passionate about STEM opportunities for youth, as well as minority inclusion and women in leadership. She is active in these areas and has invested time in multicultural programs to further promote STEM for youth and women in business. Maria, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Zoe, and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. So excited to be back with the AT&T family and have this discussion on something that is extremely pertinent, right? Especially on Hispanic Heritage Month. Let me start with Carrie. Carrie, tell us, do you feel your background helped you prepare for that transition?
Yes, definitely. Good morning, and thank you for having me on Latino Talks. I'm honored to be among such an esteemed group of co-panelists. And my HACEMOS family, of course, right? So unequivocally, Maria, being a daughter of a family that was exiled, my mother corrects me every single time I try to say immigrant. Definitely helped me prepare to move to the Philippines. So growing up, my parents spoke about their struggles of being persecuted for opposing political views and being even held hostage in concentration camps. They escaped Cuba on one of the last planes allowed to leave for the US with zero support, no family to greet them. They didn't speak the language. And they were only allowed to leave with $25 and just the clothes on their backs. They still made the leap, nonetheless, with my then teenage handicapped sister, and unbeknownst to them, mom was with child. I was made in Cuba and born in Jersey. When I was approached about this expat job, I had been to the Philippines 49 times as a vendor manager. I had fallen in love with the culture, the country, the people, their food. So knowing the level of support that my company provided made this transition a cakewalk. So my family embraced it, and we embarked on the adventure of a lifetime with my 88-year-old mother, my sister that was now 65, my amazing and very supportive husband, and my dog, Scotch. Thank you, Maria.
No, thank you for sharing. And what a great story of resiliency. I think a lot of times, right, having the experiences like your family did really builds you to have the ability to be able to connect into new environments. And I'm curious, maybe as a follow-up question for Anna, do you feel like as we were, when you go into an expat position, at least in your case, Carrie, you knew the culture, you knew what you were going to face. Sometimes we don't, and sometimes we have our own preconceptions of what we might encounter. Anna, do you think your preconceptions, if you had any, might have been realized as you move?
So, well, Mexico, I think, is probably one of the countries where the preconceptions give way to a very brighter reality. So, when I made the decision to move here, a lot of people told me, be careful, it's dangerous, violence, drug trafficking, stay near the airport so you can save yourself if something happened. Traffic is horrible, don't wear any jewelry, you cannot go out, all your beautiful purses, just leave them in Puerto Rico, you cannot use that anymore. So it was just like, oh my God, everyone is just threatening me to, being a single person going to a foreign country by myself with my dogs. It was just like hysterical. In my mind, my preconceptions and reason to move here were it's a new country, it's full of opportunities, it's an exponential networking. I'd be able to build new processes, new projects, grow. It's a growth opportunity. It will enhance and increase my skills. So they were telling me all of these bad things. In my mind, it was just like a magical thing that was going to happen. And at the end, I think I was right. At the end, I think that my positive preconceptions were achieved and has been achieved, and still they're being achieved above and beyond my expectations. I realized that Mexico is a very welcoming and warm country. It's full of music, color, nature, delicious gastronomy. I agree with you, Carrie. Food is always something very warm to our hearts. It has diverse landscapes, history, culture, life. In the work environment, there is highly skilled workforce, that is attracting global investment from all over the world. If we see the people, they're prepared, they're hungry to learn, to develop themselves. There are plenty of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are very abundant here. There is an infinite amount of high-tech startups. So I work in the business segment, so that's great. When you learn more about the country, you understand that Mexico has more manufactured products than any other country in Latin America, has over 40 trade agreements with countries like Brazil, China, and some people call Mexico the potential new China or new United States, because the potential is here. So as any other countries, there is two sides of the coin. I decided to focus on the good side of the coin, and I think that when you focus on good things happen. So my experience has been one of the best experiences I have in my life career. I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful about everything that I've received, and also everything that I have been able to give back. So my experience has been fascinating doing this change. Sometimes it's scary, sometimes preconceptions just turn into great things, but I'm very happy.
What a great story. And Anna, you're so right? I mean, there's preconceptions anywhere you look, but to come into it with your own set of intentional, even preconceptions for the better, and that will inevitably shape the experience you have. I think that's a powerful message you just shared. Thank you. And then maybe Viviana, right, was as you made this move, was there anything that surprised you? So maybe not preconceptions, but something else that just caught you by surprise.
Yeah, of course. So can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I mean, when my company decided to transfer me to a Spanish country, a Spanish-speaking country, I thought, well, this is gonna be super easy because same language. I'm gonna be, like doing an amazing job. And when I moved, I started feeling like, okay, something is missing. What's going on? It's not only the language. I had some difficulties with some deals, and I was thinking, wow, I mean, this is a different experience that I thought. And instead of, human beings, usually we used to like criticize or maybe judge other cultures. And then I thought, well, I don't think that's the right path. So I started, I bought a book of the history of the country and I started learning and understanding. And I started mixing more with the people. And, it was more like I was more open to tolerate and understand. And that was an immediate change in my career in the countries that I used to live. And that surprised me a lot, because maybe you will think that you just migrate or move to a country, a Spanish-speaking country, is going to be easier. It is not. You have to do that job to understand, to tolerate, don't judge, never do that. And actually that's beautiful, because at the end you can understand, yeah, I am different, but that's beautiful, because that's making me unique. And at the same time, you do that job inside yourself, but sometimes you notice that that's not happening outside. But if you can realize that, you will take everything not personal, you will understand better, and you actually will embrace the diversity and the difference.
Thank you, Viviana. And I think, it was the previous chairman of AT&T that said something very similar, right? Tolerance is not enough. You need to move into seeking understanding. And it's such a critical element of cultural intelligence. Just yesterday, we had a session on this in our company on Hispanic Heritage Month, that we talk a lot about IQ and, intelligence and intellectual curiosity. We talk about EQ, knowing how to read an office, emotional intelligence, a situation, but we don't talk about cultural intelligence. And it is so critical to also understand it's not about minority groups, it's truly about the elements that shape an environment and that defines a culture. And because we're all coming from many different backgrounds, right, it does create a new environment every time you walk into it. So I think your advice of moving someplace new, doing the homework, right, getting to read about the history of the location so that you can understand what you're facing as you're interacting with people in that city. That was a really, really great tidbit for all of us.
Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you for sharing. And Patrick, maybe I saw you join. Welcome. Tell us, when in your experience, what was maybe the most challenging experience for you, or what was the most challenging element of being an expat in another country?
Sure. Sorry for being fashionably late. I don't want to live up to any stereotypes. I just as a way of introduction, I'm Patrick Casal. I'm the Senior Director for Xander in Latin America. I was transferred from US to Brazil, and then am responsible for kind of our business down here, and I'm responsible for Brazil and Mexico and Argentina and all the countries in between. And I would say when I first came down to Brazil, well, a little bit of background. I never really felt that I had a specific home. My parents are from Argentina. I was born there. I grew up as an expat myself. So I lived in a lot of different locations. I spent a lot of time of my growing up in my youth in the Republic of Panama. And one of the things that I most love and identify with is that multiculturalism, being exposed to a lot of different communities. Even when I go and live in a different country, I make sure not to just focus on the one community that's predominant there, but I look at all the international communities that make up that particular society. And that's one of the things that attracts me to cities that are very diverse. And so whether it was when I was growing up in Panama, or when I was studying in Montreal, Canada, or when I was living in New York, or now Sao Paulo, these are all countries and cities specifically that can give you that multiculturalism. And I think that was been very helpful for me in my background. Now, when I came to Brazil, I didn't have any fear of not knowing the language or not understanding the society very well, because I knew I could learn that. But the biggest challenge actually was the challenge that a lot of us sometimes face, is being a new parent. So both my children were born here in Brazil, and that in itself is a huge life transformation that I had to do in a different language and in a different society and away from any family support. And it was a really challenging experience to a large degree. But one of the things that I learned from that experience was a very similar point to what Viviana was saying, is when I realized that my children are not American or Argentine, their mother is Mexican or Mexican, but I realized that my children were Brazilian and part of this culture. And then they also bring in all our heritage and all the things that make us unique. They're also going to be inheriting some parts of that as well. But when I realized that they were Brazilian first, that really helped me see Brazil as part of my identity, because it was the culture and the society that gave me, my children and helped me bring them up in the first years of their lives. And so that really gave me a whole different perspective on appreciation for the host country.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Patrick, and you're spot on, right? It sounds like for you guys, these experiences are growing you, right? I mean, we can all see immediately the professional aspect of knowing how to go to a new country, be able to operate within it, perform well from a professional perspective. But I love, Patrick, that you're also saying such an important element is also personal, is the person and what these experiences do to shape you and frame your mindset and even change it. So maybe for all of you, how do you think these experiences have helped you grow as a person? And maybe start back up with you, Patrick, because you said, hey, you had this challenge, but then you saw it as a beautiful thing. Do you feel now that this is something that as a person you're doing differently, or something that you think this is really, Maria, what now I'm using, right, moving forward, a key element of who I am that has forever been shifted by this experience?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we are the sum of our experiences, and we take those as almost as part of our suitcases, and so we learn and we adapt and we become much more proficient in kind of understanding things from a different perspective. And I think that relativism is hugely important. So I would say the biggest, I would say I have three takeaways for me, which was, first, I'm much more okay with the unknown. I understand that there's going to be things that I'm not going to understand or not be able to get at first, and it's going to be fine. You're going to have a process and a methodology to work through it. The second is patience. I'm a much more patient person now, because I've learned that things don't operate in the same speed that I was used to when I was living in New York City, where it was all fast, fast, fast. Life works differently in different places, and that's okay. And the third is appreciation. Reinforcing that point I said before, I'm really appreciative of Brazil as the host country where I've been for the last 5 years. But I'm so appreciative of my my home country of the U.S. as well, because there are things that you miss there, and there are things that you see there that are great that you can only really appreciate when you're farther away. And I think that's also a really nice advantage of having these experiences.
Awesome. Viviana, Anna, anything to add from your perspective?
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, go ahead. I'll go next.
Okay. Yeah, for me, definitely it's a completely change in my mind, in the way that I'm approaching all situations in my life, because the things that I've been learning during all of this experience, traveling and moving to different countries, I can apply that to my personal life, to my work, my professional life. And like I said, I'm a person that I'm a more tolerant person. I'm humble. I can, listen and understand that we have different points of view, and that's beautiful. So I feel like for me, I have 3 things that I've been taking for me and applying to every single part of my life. It's just be humble, be flexible, be compassionate, and don't take anything personal. Understand that everybody has their own things, and just you react different, and then you understand that the things that are happening is just like everybody's different too. So I think that's part of the learning process, and I'm doing it great now. I mean, I feeling like, okay, I have to go through so many experiences, but that's what life, no? It's just beautiful, just learning every day, and be open to be flexible and tolerate everybody and embrace the diversity.
Love it. Anna?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Maria, when you said about when you talk about cultural intelligence. I think that that's something that I've gained in all this process. And as a, moving by myself without friends, family, my kids, I was an empty nester at the same time that this was happening. I was divorcing at the same time that this was happening. So it was a place where I was me with myself. And the fact of you being, with yourself in a new country with new people gives you a whole new perspective of who you are, what you want, and what are you capable of doing. And there is a world of opportunities around you, and that world just opened up more when I moved. So again, as I mentioned in the first question, I'm grateful. I'm very blessed by this experience, and I think it's for me personally, it's a lesson of who I am, what I want, and that there are no limits on what you want, what could you accomplish. I don't know how long I'm gonna stay here. That's something, as Patrick says, being happy with the uncertainty and enjoy the uncertainty. I don't know how long it's gonna be, but I'm just enjoying it every day. And another thing is listening, because in order for you to have that cultural intelligence, you cannot come to the country with your own ideas on how things should be done. You need to listen to people, and you need to learn from people. And after you learn from people, then start just teaching what you're bringing to the table. But it's a very great lesson of listening and receiving and learning from others. So those will be my comments.
That's beautiful and well said. And Carrie, what about you?
Oh, wow. It's hard to add. Everybody had such great things to say, but there's a common theme, I believe, right? During these difficult moments, we find learnings and growth. So for me personally, I've always been brave. I had no choice in the matter. Whether it was my career, I got the tough gigs because, she can do it. Carrie kept looking for those alternatives, and we worked with the team to figure it out. Listening, right? Just like she just mentioned, a great deal. And served me well to take that road that's less traveled, whether I was in Colombia or working in Jamaica. But moving to the Philippines, wow, that was a big step. And just to give you a little context, right, about moving, so I'm from Miami, Florida, and I had just purchased my dream home and just finished remodeling maybe a month before. And I have my very own closet for my shoes. So that was really hard to leave, but all kidding aside, I learned a great deal. I learned that I had more resilience than I thought. Sure, there are disappointments. We landed when I think I left January 27 of 2020, and we had planned out Bangkok, Thailand, Vietnam, everywhere, Australia, New Zealand, and I had it set, right? Every weekend was a new destination, and that didn't happen because COVID hit us March 15, and we were on lockdown. My husband arrived on March 15 on the last flight that the Philippines also left.
Right.
Yeah. So, like I said, the disappointments, the difficulties that life throws your way, they're always going to come, but through it all, there are a lot of learnings and there's much growth. And the only obstacles that we have in life are the ones that we set before ourselves. So I found alternatives. I realized there was more, and now I realize there's more out there for me to conquer and to grow and learn from. So I think that's a real good common theme. In the moments of adversity, we find and we look for alternatives, and we look to see what is the opportunity for growth. And I feel that that's an important aspect to have with emotional intelligence that you mentioned also.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And guys, all of you, I think, to your point, you all have a common theme, right? And that is one of resilience, one of learning how to deal with uncertainty and learning to thrive in it. And I think it's such a powerful element to develop, because the rate of change that we're living through, right, it's speeding, is accelerating. And as continued change will happen, you will see the same across your professional life, your personal life, and knowing, and the four of you know, no matter what comes, you will succeed. And I think we're living through times that a lot of people in the world have also gone through a moment of knowing the resiliency, right? That yes, when something gets really tough, how do we survive it? And then I think an element here of also centering, knowing what matters and making sure that you prioritize that and you center around it. So it's a beautiful experiences. Thank you so much for sharing with everybody. And before I go into other questions, I always like to say, why don't we let the audience ask us a couple of questions and see if they have anything there that we might want to address. Let's see. Anna, do you want to help me with some questions? I don't know if, guys, if you want to put it in the Q&A, that would be great. If not, I'll ask questions. Let's see. Maybe I'm not looking at it right.
Yeah, I don't see any questions. If you want to start.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, right? One of the things that I hear a lot from many of the expats, right, is what you guys said. It's yes, resiliency, but then it's interesting, right? How you go from losing your support system that has always been around you, and then you develop a new support system in a completely different way, right? And friendships that stay forever. So maybe ask each of you, well, how has it been? And especially through COVID, that's super difficult, Carrie, but have you guys been able to find your new support group where you're at, and how difficult might that have been? And I'll open it to anybody that wants to share.
It wasn't difficult for me per se. I speak a little Tagalog, so I did a lot of research, and there is some Spanish background, and so some of the similar words, chismosa, lechon, all that good stuff, right? And so I was able to just use a couple of Spanish words, understand a few Tagalog words. So it was really important to immerse myself in the culture. So it's very similar. And I was able to get my family to embrace what we were doing. I mean, at 88 years old, my mother, my mother was like, "Vamos, let's go and see what it's like." And so I learned a lot from her bravery and her resilience and her ability to say, "Let's give it a try." And so it allowed me to open up and ask for help. I know being Latina, it's always hard to ask for help. Being that strong woman in the family is always tough when you have to say, "Hey, could you help me with that?" At least for me. And I learned that that was important, right? When you get to a different country, not knowing the language, having an elderly mom and having a handicapped sister. So yeah, that was good for me.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I could share, one of the things that is true in kind of a lot of the Latino populations is the importance of family. And when you come down, as an expat, it can be sometimes hard to make friends because a lot of times people, in the host country are already have plans with their families and have this kind of network already built in. And so it's hard to kind of cross that threshold. What I will say is when you're able to do it, and it does require, learning the language and understanding the customs and dropping down your guard a little bit. But when you're able to cross in and they invite you into their family, it's really rewarding because then you feel that you're getting that support that you don't have with your own family, and it's really nice, and you feel like you've really crossed a threshold. And so I would say that's one of the most rewarding experiences is to be able to be welcomed, and not only by our friends here, but by the family of our friends.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying, Patrick, and I think that it's an act of courage to open yourself to receive from people that you really don't know, especially in my case that I moved by myself. I found great friends here. and it's just to have the courage to open up to new people, to new experiences, to new culture. And once you do that, because I was very close, it was like, okay, let me go little by little, this is work, I'm not going to cross the line, but then I found great people, great friendship, and I found that there is a family that you have because you were born in that family, but there is a family that you pick and that life gives you, and that's what I have here. So, and the other thing is that with the COVID and being an expat and having all my family out of the country, in other countries, the use of technology, how important it is for you to keep connected to the people that you love, and how you need to make those spare moments to keep that connection with your friends, connection with your family, with your daughters, kids, whatever. So it's how you manage your time to do the networking, manage your time to keep in touch with the loved ones, manage your time to know the country, and obviously to learn the job and everything that you're doing on a daily basis. But that those are my 20 cents.
Great. Vivian, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything else.
No, I was actually reading the questions in the chat, and I have one here that I think Manda is asking, how did you get hired in the expat job? So for me, I'm a person that I'm always trying to, find something. I search the opportunities. And then I talk with the person that was in charge of the job position. And for me, I've been always searching. So I guess, I just find the opportunity, and then I visualize it, and I got the transfer. And like I said, I was in another company, a previous company, and that company transferred me to Spain, and then they transferred me to Mexico. And when I was in Mexico, they transferred me to the States. And I will say that each opportunity, I found the opportunity. So I invite you to just look and search and try to find the opportunity, and you can do it. Trust yourself. And even when I moved to the States, guys, my English is not perfect, obviously, but I said, I will do it. I don't care. So I did the interview, and I'm here now. So just trust yourself, believe yourself, and just go ahead and do it. So that's my recommendation. If you want to move, or if you want to find an expat job, just find it and go ahead.
Is Zoe. So from Global Expatriate Services side, I was just going to share an answer to the question about expat job. So number one is that expat jobs, they're not advertised within AT&T. So it's more a business need. So like Anna, Carrie, Patrick, they were selected for these positions by their business for a business need in that country. So you won't find these roles by going on Career Path. They're not advertised as such. It's more a business need, and if a business has a need in that location.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to jump in and say. So it's for the rest of you, right? When we were asking the question of how you build a support system in a different country, I also want you to consider it means also how do you build the connections within a corporation? Because if you hear what the answers were, right, it's about being vulnerable. And there's got to be an element of vulnerability to create authentic connections, so that people know what you do and who you are and what you're going to bring to the table. And you got to be deliberate about spending time, as you heard from the panelists, right, on making those relationships. Because the truth is, when opportunities come, and at AT&T, right, a lot of the jobs require a lot of moves, as you guys know. So you will be put at some point in positions to make a choice. But it'd be great for you to be given the opportunity of an expat role. And that requires people to know who you are, to know your worth. And so you've got to kind of also have the vulnerability to create those authentic relationships where people can and will say, hey, is this an opportunity you might want to do for us in the business when we need it? And that's very similar, by the way, for us, Zoe, as well here. And on the topic of authenticity, I did see a question around that. It said, how do you authentically share your culture at work? I always hear the phrase, bring your real self to work, but I didn't ever feel it was really meant to be. So
Can I take that one?
Yes, sure.
So I'm currently a chief of staff, and we still have sites that are near shore and offshore, and some onshore. And so that's a mix of Filipino, folks from Jamaica, Colombia, Panama. And I host calls where we talk about, like what's new and what's going on. And I greet them in Tagalog. Magandang umaga, buenos dias. I ask my Jamaican friends, is everything Irish? So really, it's really about enjoying that. And everybody smiles and everybody feels more respected, more unified. And who doesn't need a little unity nowadays? And reality is that the more I travel, and I love to travel, the more I realize we're more similar than we think. No matter what country, no matter what shade of brown, yellow, or black or white you are, we all want better lives for our families. We all want some type of advancement better than our parents had possibly, right? And just some type of security. Although the unknown is interesting, and in the end, we want some type of security. So being authentic, showing that you have culture. I get to host more calls than I'd like sometimes because I think that is a benefit. So don't be afraid of being who you really are, because everybody else out there is taken. I hate to quote Dr. Seuss, but he's kind of funny sometimes.
I will add to what Carrie said, that being authentic gives you freedom. When you're authentic, you're yourself and you're free, and you feel good with your skin, and you show who you are, and that's where you perform the best. It does, if you move to a new country, that doesn't mean that you need to change yourself. You need to learn and you need to develop yourself, but you don't change the essence of who you are. In the contrary, people is very curious about learning from your culture also at the same time that you're learning from theirs. So it's an exchange of cultures, an exchange of knowledge, and just admiring the beauty of each person. I speak Spanish. In Mexico, Spanish is the language, and I just learned a lot of words that I have never ever thought that exist. Phrases that I never thought that exist, and they've learned from me too. I have my accent, they have their accent, and it's different, but it's beautiful. So I think being authentic, it's the way of living.
Yeah, there's a saying somewhere that I read similar that said that if there is a superpower that we all have as humans, is that we can smell fake like nobody else. You can see when somebody is not totally themselves. And in the Hispanic environment, right, there's always an element that you have like a duality to yourself, right? And it's hard to say who do I bring to work today? Who do I bring to this moment right now? So when we talk about authenticity, and it's such an important topic, guys, I love what you guys have said, because you're right? It's about being yourself, all of you. That includes, right, if you're a mother, a sister, whatever the case might be, a brother, right, a husband, you gotta bring that with you. But I also challenge you to think about how you have to be smart about the audience. And I think we talked about it, style flexing a lot in our space, which means, if you have a kid or a niece or somebody young in a family, how you talk to them differently than you would talk to somebody, a peer at work, or even when you talk to your spouse or significant other. And that doesn't mean you're not less yourself. You're not just not being authentic. You're just understanding that how you communicate with others depends on how they're going to receive the message. And so that style flexing, guys, doesn't mean that you stop being yourself. And you can still bring a lot of who you are in how you communicate. Just also know how to communicate in a way that's impactful. And in that area too, I had a couple of questions come in around how do you guys help others that have had the same experiences as you? And maybe with Patrick, maybe.
So same experiences of going and moving to a different location from their home country, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I would say, in this particular case, there is a lot of learnings that one has, and we've talked a lot about them, and I really appreciate Maria, that you talked a little bit about the corporate learnings, right? Like how do you position yourself to gain that credibility, to earn the right to go and do, and to, you know, because essentially the company is taking a risk when sending you on an assignment. And you know, there are calculated risks. There are ways that you can reduce the risk, but at the end of the day, you don't know if it's going to work out. It could not work out for business reasons or for personal reasons, because it's hard, right? Like we talk a lot about the good things, but there's also a lot of sacrifices that we all have to make as going and through these processes. So what I tend to do when I speak to people on my own team, because we do have to sometimes, you know, we work in a very digital environment, very virtual environment. We cover an entire region, and there are situations across Latin American countries that are not so great sometimes. And so sometimes we look at like what our employees are going through and saying there's a better way to meet our business needs and to meet your personal needs, and those things can align. And I think that becomes a very important way to help people adjust, is making sure that they understand how to get what they want, but also how to help the company get what it wants, because there is win-win scenarios. If you come from an egotistical perspective of just trying to do something different because you want to, you're probably not going to succeed. But if you find those opportunities, if you're patient and look for them, if you have conversations and openly express interest, it's not, you don't know what you don't know, right? So unless you have those conversations and say, hey, if there is an opportunity in the future, I would like to be considered. There's nothing wrong with saying that. And I think that's what I've been helping others kind of discuss and teach and think about as they also want to kind of go and experience different things.
Love that.
If I could just add, I remember meeting Maria at SMU because I went to a course there, a CEDP some time ago. And I realized that a lot of times we don't apply for jobs because we don't check off all those boxes. And so it's really important, right, that you put your name in the hat. And the reason I'm saying this is because it's really critical to help people understand that, whether it's a cultural thing, whether it's a woman thing. You know, some of my peers might have less experience, might not even speak a language, but they will apply for a job if they're like 50% got it. I need to be like, oh my God, I'm missing that one thing. No, you have to help people understand culturally that might be what you think, or maybe what you've been brought up to believe. But no, if you feel the need that you could actually grow into it, you can. I think Patrick mentioned that earlier today, and I love that he said that. For me, I did have support. Zoe had a group of expats that came on a call and shared their experiences, gave us great tips, you know, and I expect to do that going forward for any expat that comes. And that is value add, because there's so many questions that you're going to have. Do I pack up my entire life? Do I just sell it off and go with a couple of jeans and my dog and off I go? But there's a lot to learn, and all of it will come with time and support. But please, if you do ever want a job like that, if you want to reach out and ask me some questions, let me know. I don't know about the jobs that are out there right now, but I'm happy to give you some of the mistakes I made, and hopefully so that you don't make them.
Thanks for sharing. Viviana, I might ask you, by the way, I was going to say, Carrie, that's wise words for everybody, right? Guys, don't limit yourselves. And I think I heard somebody else say that, you know, without limits, if you put limits to yourself, then believe me, you're not doing a service to yourself, and we can do a lot more than we think we can. And you owe that to yourself. Just give it a try. So I was going to be, Viviana, I had a question that is a little bit fun. So let's go over it and say, what are some fun facts about how you celebrate your heritage?
Well, to be honest, I feel like now, at this moment of my life, I'm from everywhere. Because seriously, it's amazing, because sometimes I speak with someone from Ecuador and I connect immediately because I used to live 3 years there and I love Ecuador. So you ask me something about Ecuador and I start talking about, you know, the experience in the mountains with the food. I love food, by the way. So I'm always connected with food. So, and then I live for for 5 years in Mexico, so I became Mexican. So I'm proud to be a Mexican person. So I celebrate, you know, their days, their food, their work, everything. From Spain, I used to work in a company. It was a Spanish company for 15 years. So I have in my veins the Spain culture. So now that I'm here, so I will say for that question, it's amazing because I'm celebrating all the time. And obviously I'm from Venezuela. So, I mean, I think at the end, and I think that's the conclusion, we are a human being that is connected with so many cultures. If you open that and if you are, you know, relaxed and flexible to understand that you're part of everybody and everybody's part of you, you, like I said, you are celebrating all the time because you don't have one flag in your head. You have many flags, many experience. So I would say I celebrate every single day from every single country that I've been, and hopefully I can add more experience and more cultures and more countries. So I don't celebrate only one; I celebrate all of them.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you answered that question because I think you're the one then that is telling us, hey, every experience you gain, you should celebrate, and I think that's so powerful. And guys, I just think about it, right? With the appropriate, where it's appropriate, where you see an audience that is willing to hear it. I tend to sign my emails when something big has happened with mil gracias, right, to the team, when I say thank you for the work you've done. That way they know there's an element that is just, you know, the inner me saying, I appreciate you, I see you, and I'm grateful to you. And so however you celebrate, whether it's in simple things, whether it's in events, you know, I think it's so powerful that people see that you have passion for where you come from and that you're sharing that. So I know we're almost nearing the end, so I'm going to ask all of you guys to think through a question of what are some of, you know, if you had one message to share or key takeaways from this discussion, I'm going to go and ask each of you. But before we do that, we're going to have a quick lightning round because everybody has mentioned the topic of food, and we're just going to ask each of you, what's your favorite food? Ready? Okay, let's go. Viviana, I'm going to start with you because you just popped up.
I love seafood. So everything that is related with seafood, I will love it. So seafood for me.
Seafood for her. Carrie.
Mm-hmm. Croquetas from Miami are hands down some of the best. I know there's some in Spain, but definitely my favorite.
Oh, that's awesome. Patrick?
Mine is a mixture of all of my kind of experiences. So it's a choripan with guacamole while drinking caipirinha.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know that I can know all those foods. That's awesome. I'm going to have to look it up. Anna, what about you?
I'm in love with fruits and vegetables. Those are my favorite food. But here in Mexico, I'm in love with avocado.
Avocado is awesome. That's a breakfast item for me every day. Well, thank you for sharing, guys. And let's, you know, see, we're going to go round table again and say, tell us after this conversation, and thank you for sharing your experiences, what you've learned, tidbits for the audience so they can apply it to what they do and how they work and what they bring to themselves, right, every day. What do you think would be a key message or just a summary that you would say as you think of the experiences you have gone through and how much you've grown from them and what you've learned from them? What would you want to share with the audience? And Anna, I'll go with you first.
I think that first, just wrapping up everything that we talked, be authentic, be yourself, be your best version, because you don't know there is someone observing you all the time. So be visible, because this, as Zoe mentioned, these opportunities came. People ask you to move because they think that you're the good fit for that country, and those things happen when you do your very best. You're authentic to yourself, and you're visible, and you network, and you relate to people. So for me, that's the most important thing in all this experience. And as I mentioned at the beginning, open yourself to new things. When you open yourself to new things, it's where the biggest and most amazing experiences comes to your life. So that's where I will wrap up.
Thank you. Patrick?
I would say curiosity is your ally. You know, if you are interested in other cultures and other ideas that what you're exposed to, go out, find it. It's, you know, one of the nice things about the United States is it really does have so much vibrancy in terms of aspects of cultures, and that will open up a whole world. You know, a lot of times you don't have to travel to get exposure to food and cultures and religion and music. They're all right there within our grasp. And so I think that curiosity will always help fuel and give you the experiences that may one day lead you to an assignment as an expat.
Absolutely. Viviana?
I think I've been thinking a lot about that, and I think it's just like something that in general, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, which language you speak, always do good, always. And if you can help someone, do it. Do it, because we're here just share and learn. So that's my main lesson and message today.
Thank you. And Carrie?
Oh, there's a lot I wish I could impart. I wake up every day thinking about, you know, it's an interview. Every day is an interview for me, whether I'm talking to my boss, whether I'm talking to a customer, they could be my boss later. There's a lot of intricate moments or special moments where you need to just bring your best self, like everybody's mentioned. And so, yeah, you know, sometimes I don't want to turn on my video camera. I don't want to put makeup on, but do bring your best as much as you can. And when you know better, you do better, right? And I'm not afraid of making a mistake, because that's also a learning opportunity, right? And always be authentic is an important thing, but truthful. I think many times we're afraid of making a mistake, and I love them, because the more mistakes I made, the more I'm learning, right? They're going to be calculated risks that you take in life. But one recent lesson, I've been doing vendor manager work for 30% of my career, which has been 29 years with AT&T, and now with DirecTV, I'm a chief of staff. Get uncomfortable, because being comfortable is just not growth. And I could do that job with my eyes closed. That's why I jumped at the opportunity. But the moment you get uncomfortable, I'm still drowning a little bit, because I don't know all this deck work and all this wonderful stuff, but I get exposure to new things, new people, new ideas, and strategy that I had not been part of. Before, I was just a doer. And so now I just have to sit on my hands, or else I'll be talking and wanting to do things. And I'm learning that I could be a very good strategist. And so when you expand your range, that doesn't come from a place of comfort. It comes from a place of being uncomfortable. So don't look at that job that maybe you're great at, or you have such great experience. Yeah, that's all well and good. But when you start getting uncomfortable, you start to move, and people start to see your ability to have range. And if you do that, everybody wins, right? Whether it's your family, whether it's, you know, your folks at work, we don't stop who we are when we come to work. All those additions and all that greatness and all those lessons are things that you bring home and you bring with you. So get uncomfortable, it would be my lesson.
Thank you, Carrie. And thank you all of you guys for sharing your experiences, for being so vulnerable with us to just really share what you learned, what's valuable. I heard be authentic, right? Exercise curiosity, do good. You said several things, bring your best self to work. I think that's such a powerful thing, guys, especially these days. Somebody told me, actually at AT&T, a great leader there once told me, as a leader, you really don't longer have a reason to not bring your best self. Like, you now owe your teams to be the best version of yourself every day. So don't go negative, right? Don't turn sour. And guys, let's be real. Part of life, there are days you want to just check out. That's why vacation is so important. But take days off, take time to center. I think you guys talked about taking chances. But what I didn't hear you say, which is interesting that I see in all of you guys, is you are all, and I know the word resilient, you know, we've mentioned it before, we've talked about your resiliency, but I think what it talks about is your courage. All of you are so brave to have taken opportunities to be uncomfortable, to take chances, to be curious about new experiences. And it clearly has set you apart. So thank you for sharing with all of us those experiences, and thank you for letting me ask you some questions. And I'm going to turn it back over to Anna to wrap us up and tell us next steps.
Thank you, Maria. And actually, I'm the new improved Anna. So Don Cordero here. I'm the EVP of Operations. I was on the beginning of the call. So Anna and I tag teamed on this one, work obligations. So first of all, thank you guys so much. Zoe, thank you for putting this together. I think it was a very, very interesting topic. A lot of great comments. Carrie, salamat for your time. Obrigado, Patrick. Mil gracias, Maria y los demás. We really thank you. And, you know, as someone who lives in multiple cultures myself, so I think I relate a lot with Carrie. Grew up, I have a sister who's half Filipino, so we grew up in my family speaking Spanish, Tagalog, and English. You know, our understanding it. And I worked, came from Rio, where, of course, we've got a large business in Brazil. So, you know, understanding a little bit of Portuguese, not a lot. And so just, I think that's, just surround yourself with it, right? To your point, I think, Patrick, you mentioned it, right? It's here, it's everywhere. Just look for those opportunities. It could be a local festival. It could be your partners at work, your peers. It could be at an event. You know, walk up to somebody you don't know, you know, start a conversation. You'd be surprised at what you may learn about them. And so I think this cultural similarities is you know, something that is very near and dear to my heart. And so I want to just thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules today to come and spend this hour with us and provide us your wonderful insights and your experiences that we can take back and learn from. Zoe, I'll give it back over to you just for a few closing you know, words, if you have anything from the global expatriate services that you'd like to provide.
Thank you, Dawn. So again, echoing from my side, thank you all. I think this has been a great collaboration between Global Expat Services and the HACEMOS group. I think it was a great call, really interesting. And just thank you to the panelists for sharing your stories and just, you know, for being totally honest and open and sharing your experiences with, you know, with the community. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, thank you. And just as a real quick, everybody who attended today will receive a very quick little, literally 30-second survey. Please take the opportunity to complete that survey. A lot of our Latino Talks are presented on topics that you would suggest to us. So for those that are joining or for those that are viewing this at a later date, please take that survey. Again, these topics come directly from our audience. And so we thank you for your time and thank you again for everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.